This is the story of the sailor who cooks. He's one of the most important, yet lowest paid crew members on board. And this is his story. Our story begins in the hold, in the belly of the ship. This is the cook's domain, a place the others avoid if they can. They call it the caboose. It's a makeshift kitchen constructed inside the ship's hold, improvised from whatever materials the ship can spare. There's nothing pretty about it. It's a jumble of ropes and barrels, tarpaulins and chains. The walls are thick planks of timber designed to keep the weather and the waves at bay. Now they're marked with greasy stains and hardened grease splatters. Everywhere, pipes snake up from bilge pumps, wheezing foul air. And everywhere, the air hangs thick and heavy with the stink of stale waste and spoiled food. Here, the ceiling is low and the cramped space is lined with iron pots and grimy pans. Every inch of available space is taken up by stacks of salted beef, hard biscuits, jars of vinegar, barrels of beer and water, crates of wine, boxes of cheese. A dented lantern casts long shadows, painting dancing shapes on the walls. The firebox stands at the center of it all, heavily guarded by the cook's assistants. They pass buckets of water around like sentinels guarding a treasure chest. Because the fire is everything. Cooks the food, but it could also burn the ship alive. No ship would sail without a cook, but few kitchens were more cramped or dangerous than this one. The cook wasn't born in the belly of the ship, but he might as well have been. His father, the ship's owner, and his mother, the tavern keeper. He grew up dodging sailors, cleaning spilled grog and sleeping in the corner of the barroom. It was no life for a boy, but it was his life. Till one day he ran away, stowing away on this very ship. And now he sleeps here, eats here, and works here. He doesn't know much about the sea, but he knows the galley. It's hard work being the cook on a man of war. He has to manage supplies, keep the men fed, and please the officers. Fail in any of these tasks, and you risk mutiny. Imagine it. A ship without rum, and without rations. That's a surefire recipe for disaster. Being the cook is almost as lonely as being the captain, because the cook manages his own supply of food, buys it, and prepares it. He does not eat with the crew. He eats alone in his cabin, when he can be bothered. He's woken in the dark, but that doesn't matter. He knows his way around the hold. There's nowhere to go, and no one to meet. He's not paid to chat. He's paid to cook. While other sailors sleep late, the cook is already stirring a giant pot of porridge. He starts the fire, feeds the bellows, and lays the breakfast out on the rough planks. It's not much, just watery oats, but the men will eat it with the same hunger every day. A cook isn't paid much, but he is fed, so the cook fills his bowl with porridge and sits down on a nearby barrel, spoons the hot mush into waiting bowls, and watches the men scarf it down. The first mate joins him and barks orders, reminding him of the duties ahead. The cook answers with a grunt, wiping his mouth on his sleeve. The cook turns his attention to the supplies. He opens a barrel of salted beef and picks out the best cuts. The rest will go to the other crew members. Salted beef is old meat. It might have been aboard the ship for months or years. Sometimes it's gone bad. The cook tests its quality by squeezing a chunk between his fingers. Good meat holds its shape. Bad meat crumbles. He tosses the bad meat to the pigs. Then he prepares the cut meat for cooking, trimming fat and slicing chunks. The process is mindless, done with steady hands, eyes half closed, thinking nothing. The cook is a sailor too, and he follows the ship wherever she goes. His work is vital to the crew, but no one wants to be the cook. Everyone thinks they know how to cook, so they'd rather trust their own stomach to the ocean and starve. The cook cuts a thick slice of bread and spreads butter on it. Then he places a thin slice of cheese on top. It's probably old, but it'll keep until the next meal. Soon, the smell of roasting meat wafts down the hold. The men gather, their faces lighting up, their mouths watering, but they can't join the cook. He guards his precious food jealously, keeping the hungry men away with a broom. The afternoon brings storms and heavy seas. Waves crash against the ship, shaking the hold and threatening to spill water and ruin the cook's supplies. He braces himself against a beam as the ship pitches and rolls. He fights to keep his balance as he stirs great cauldrons of stew, checks the biscuit stores, the barrels of beer and water, and the sacks of flour. Flour is a cook's best friend, but it's also a sailor's bane. Rats love it. They chew through the bags in the dead of night, leaving the cook with a mess and nothing to bake. The cook chases the rats through the maze of barrels, brandishing a broom. It's a losing battle. Rats breed fast, and they're good swimmers. By evening, the storm has passed, and a gentle breeze beckons across the deck. The cook pulls the hatch open and leans out. The smell of the sea washes over him, mixing with the smell of brine and roast meat. For a moment, he feels free, as though the wind will lift him off his feet and carry him far away from the ship, from his life. But the moment passes, and he's left with the smells of the sea and the hunger of his crew. Life aboard a man of war is harsh. Food spoils easily, leaving the crew hungry and the cook desperate. On colder days, the cook adds extra spices and thickens his soups. On hotter days, he serves ice-cold beer and fresh fruit. When he can find fresh fruit, the crew are grateful for anything they can get, so they don't complain much. The cook knows better than to serve warm beer, though. When he does, he gets the cold shoulder along with his mug. At least there's plenty of work to keep the cook busy, because a cook needs little else but his supplies and his tools. Most ships provide him with iron pots and tripods to hang them over the firebox. Sometimes the cook has a small stove, but usually he cooks over an open fire. It's not easy preparing meals for dozens of hungry men on a pitching rolling ship. Hot cinders fly everywhere, spilling water, knocking over supplies, and singeing eyebrows. Open flames are dangerous, though, so some ships forbid their cooks from lighting fires on certain days, forcing them to use their portable stoves instead. But even those require ventilation, so the cook must light a fire anyway, using a long hook to feed air through a pipe and force the bellows to breathe. Dinner is ready, and the cook calls the crew to the galley. The men line up, holding out their bowls and plates. They receive their food and shuffle away without a word of thanks. The cook watches them go, wondering what they dream of when they eat. Do they dream of a warm fire and a full belly? The cook does. As night sets in, the cook prepares for bed. It's hard to sleep in the galley, what with the ghosts of scurvy and starvation haunting the beams, but the cook tries anyway. He crawls into his hammock and pulls the sailcloth tight around him. Soothing darkness wraps him in a shroud, muffling the creaks of the ship and the moans of the wind. He closes his eyes and dreams of home. You have heard the story of the sailor who cooks. Now it's time for you to speak. What did you think of the story? Did it change your mind about becoming the cook? Tell us in the comments, and remember to stay tuned for more stories of the sea. This is a story about a hero, about how we write heroes. And when we think of heroes, we tend to think of loud voices, right? Of men like El Cid, who yelled, "El Cid Campeador," before charging into battle, or figures like Romulus, who founded Rome and nursed it through its infancy. We think of Henry V, stirring his men before Agincourt, or of George Washington, crossing the Delaware, or of Lincoln, issuing proclamations from the White House lawn. But let us step away for a moment from those stories, from those shouts and cries, from those bold, brash voices. For some heroes are quieter. Some heroes are men like John Churchill, who don't win victories so much as endure them, who pick themselves up from defeat and plot another strategy, who go on trying even when all seems lost. Like Churchill, our hero is born in a violent age. He is born in Flanders in 1629, during the Flanders Campaign, an episode in the 80 Years' War. A struggle between Spain and the Dutch Republic for control over the Netherlands. He witnesses war from an early age, and soon enough he is fighting alongside soldiers in small coastal raids. He learns the ways of war and slowly rises to the rank of captain. But this is not a story of military glory. You will not be famous as a soldier. He will not be remembered for battles won. You'll instead be remembered for something else. This is a story of a reluctant hero, of John Churchill, the man they called Black Betty, the man they would later call Black Bess. Let me start again. Let me introduce myself. I am the host. Welcome to the History of English podcast. The Anglo-American conflict is in full swing. England and New England are at war. France is divided. Things are complicated. King Charles is fighting a war he cannot afford. And Oliver Cromwell has taken London. And as if that wasn't enough, a plague is spreading across the city. London is being emptied. Those who can leave do so, including our young soldier. Churchill goes to Normandy to try to join the royalist cause against Parliament, but soon finds himself captured by French troops and locked in a prison camp. He escapes, returns to England, and fights in a feudal royalist rising against Cromwell. He loses naturally and spends 3 years on the run, hiding in the woods with other royalists, learning guerrilla tactics, robbing stagecoaches, hiding in caves. When it's clear the war is going badly, he heads to Normandy again, hoping to enlist with the exiled royalist forces. But France isn't interested in helping the English crown, so he is forced to return home. The year is 1650. England is controlled by Oliver Cromwell. King Charles is in exile and most of Europe doesn't want to help him. And young Churchill? Well, he needs money. That's when he meets Sir Robert Heath, an explorer who wants to raise a privateering fleet to capture Spanish treasure ships in the Americas. Churchill joins him as an officer. Soon enough, he is leading a crew of buccaneers and privateers across the Atlantic, pillaging ports and wreaking havoc. And during one of those expeditions, he picks up a nickname, one that follows him throughout his life. People call him Black Betty, perhaps because of his dark complexion, perhaps because of his dark deeds. But whatever the reason, the name sticks. He makes money for himself and for the crown, and soon he's attracting attention. That attention comes in the form of a summons from the restored monarchy. King Charles II is back in power, and he wants Black Betty to fight for him. Now, you may think this is a good thing, that this is the point in the story where things turn around. And you would be right, sort of. Yes, Churchill is finally working for the official monarchy, as he will play a crucial role in winning the Anglo-French War and capturing Jamaica. Yes, he will go on to become Duke of Marlborough, a celebrated general. One of the most successful military commanders in British history. England is deeply unstable. There are political factions and religious disputes and rival interests. You may have heard of the English Civil War. Well, it isn't over yet. And when Churchill enters into this fray, he is not doing so as a man who seeks glory or renown or victory. He is doing so out of necessity. He's been on the run for a decade. He needs a way to survive, needs a way to earn a living, needs a way to put food on the table. So he fights, and it's true, he fights brilliantly. He wins decisive victories at sea. He pushes the Dutch back from the North American coast. He captures towns and forts and whole fleets. But remember, this is not his goal. Winning England's wars is not his objective. He's not storming down the ramparts at Quebec, shouting, "Remember the Alamo." He's fighting to stay alive, to carve out an existence in a time of constant chaos. And he doesn't do it because he loves war. He does it because he must. And that's why the real hero of the story is his wife, Sarah. She's the one who fights the biggest battles, who defeats the greatest foe, who suffers the longest hardships for the sake of their family. See, she's the one who supports the household while John is at sea, running the estate, managing the rents, looking after tenants, raising a family. He is gone for months and years at a time, and without her help, he could not possibly function. And when he comes home, he is wounded and bedridden. She nurses him back to health. When he is disgraced, she stands by him. When he is triumphant, she shares his glory. Through thick and thin, she is the rock of the family. And John, well, he remains a man apart, a man who travels in distant lands, a man who commands great armies, but who is forever haunted by the specter of poverty, a man who collects enormous salaries, but who perpetually lives in debt. He's a man who wins great victories, but who is always tired, always drained, always melancholic. He survives, but he's not really alive. It's not like Henry V. Remember that speech before Agincourt? Remember the soaring words? Remember how Henry rallies his men, rouses them to greatness? Well, here's Churchill in 1690, after he's captured the city of Espless. He is exhausted, disillusioned, pessimistic. He sees his victory as a Pyrrhic one, and he longs for peace. He will never love war. He will never revel in bloodshed. And that's why he's such a hero, because he endures it, because he endures it despite himself. Because he conquers, not because he loves victory, but because he fears defeat, because he overcomes. Not because he has unlimited ambition, but because he has none at all.
Wow.
So let us learn from him. Let us remember that sometimes heroism doesn't come from soaring words or stirring calls to greatness. Sometimes it comes from quiet endurance, from the slow, steady march of duty, from the long defeat of despair. Our hero is not the man who charges forward with a sword held high, but the man who picks himself up after being knocked down. So let us finish this story of John Churchill with one last quote. He is writing to his wife in 1660 after years and years of battle. "My dearest Sarah, my mind is so full of you," he writes, "that I can think of nothing else. I wish I could enjoy 1 hour's quiet to peruse your obliging letters without interruption. I am a kind of hero, you know, always surrounded by crowds of people, officers, soldiers, servants, ambassadors, merchants all clamorous for admittance, nothing but noise and disorder. Oh, the difference between the life I now lead and the blessed retirement of our own cottage. From frigid fjords to sun-baked decks, from tavern tales to the turning tide, this is the Kraken.
Hours.
Our story begins in the cold waters of the north, where else but where the sun struggles to reach and the sea is always hungry. Specifically, we begin here in the Norwegian Sea between Norway and Iceland, a place known to be both beautiful and deadly, full of ice-jammed fjords, hidden reefs, and winds that can turn kind to cruel in minutes. Around these waters lived people who knew every trick of the sea, fishermen and traders, explorers and conquerors. But for all their knowledge, they knew that some things are better left undiscovered. In those days, the sea was considered a character unto itself, alive with whims and dangers. Fish were too keen, biting with snapping jaws. Currents could drag you off course. Storms could swallow your ship, and whirlpools would rip men from the deck. But there were other things in the water, old and bigger than any man or god. Things that stirred in the deepest trenches and rose in forms too dreadful to name. When they did come up, everything changed. The water boiled, seals fled screaming, the sky grew dark, and the very waves themselves seemed to writhe and twist. And if you saw it then, the stories say, you wouldn't believe your eyes, because what you saw was unlike anything you'd ever imagined. This beast was called the Kraken, may have risen from the sea as a column of spray, or maybe it emerged from the depths, pulling itself over the waves like a submarine mountain. Its skin was said to be white, gray, or black, pale against the blue, or swallowed by it. It was a creature whose bulk dwarfed ships, whose length defied counting, and whose movements altered the tides. At first glance, the Kraken was impossible to kill, impossible to escape. All you could do was watch and hope. Hope that it didn't notice you. Hope it would go away. Hope you weren't next. They say the Kraken slept most days, drifting through the deep trenches of the sea, almost like a living island. Yet there was a danger even in its slumber. Because while it slept, its tendrils moved restlessly and could drag ships right into the abyss without a sound. Then, every once in a while, the Kraken stirred, truly stirred, and then hell froze over. From somewhere deep in the ocean, it shot upward, bursting from the surface, as if propelled by an engine of thunder. And there, in its terrible entirety, was the Kraken. All the stories agree on one thing. This was a sight that chilled a man's soul. Some told of eyes as big as the moon, staring blindly with alien coldness. Others spoke of a beak as long as a mast, dripping with venom and able to rend a ship in two. The truth was, no one knew what the Kraken looked like, because no one lived to tell the tale. It was an enigma wrapped in nightmare, silent and sudden and wholly inescapable. When it struck, the best you could do was cling to the rigging and wait for the end. Usually, that meant drowning, being dragged down into the sea to join the Kraken's feast. But sometimes, if you were lucky, you were thrown onto the shore, gasping and broken, the last remnant of a massacre. The Kraken attacked for no reason, showing itself in fits of madness or mere caprice. Some claimed it was old, older than time itself, and had seen the rise and fall of empires. It remembered worlds that were long gone, and cared little for those that were still around. Others claimed it was mindless, driven by hunger or habit, hunted for sport, feeding on the souls of men and the splinters of their dreams. Whatever its motivation, the result was the same. Ships were crushed and broken, tossed about like driftwood and sunk to rest among the coral and kelp. Mariners were devoured, either in the struggle or to feed the Kraken's ceaseless hunger. Only the shore was spared, watching impassively while the Kraken pleased itself. As the legends grew, so did the Kraken's domain. At first, it lurked only in the cold north, hiding among the barren rocks and frozen seas. Then it crept southward, drawn by warmer waters and human settlements. Soon, it was everywhere. In fact, or at least in the imaginations of those who sailed the seas. The Kraken became a boogeyman, a way of explaining the inexplicable. If your ship was lost at sea, it was the Kraken. If your friend disappeared on a voyage, he'd been snatched by the Kraken. Even good fortune was sometimes blamed on the Kraken. Some claim that if you appeased it, it would lead you safely home. Others said the only way to survive was to give the kraken what it wanted. So sailors made offerings, bits of cloth soaked in blood, trinkets of gold and silver, or sometimes live animals like pigs or cattle. They were tossed into the sea, meant to distract the kraken and earn its favor. Whether this worked or not, nobody knew. After all, you don't usually come back from a trip into the belly of the beast. But people kept doing it, because what choice did they have? If the kraken took you, that was the end of it. There was no reasoning with it, no bargaining or begging that would save you. All you could do was submit and pray that whatever lay beneath the waves would be gentle. Most sailors never had to face that decision. They never encountered the kraken, at least not directly. Most tales of its wrath were told secondhand, passed down through whispers and rumors. People knew the kraken existed, even if they never saw it, just as you know a predator exists, even if you've never seen its tracks. To them, the kraken was a threat, yes, but also a mystery, something unknowable and therefore terrifying. It was a reminder that the world was far bigger than they were, and that some things were simply beyond understanding. And as long as humanity sailed the seas, the kraken would swim beneath, a silent specter of myth and nightmare. And so it goes. For centuries, the kraken lurked in the depths of the oceans, a creature of legend and lore. It was said to be a harbinger of doom, a devourer of ships, and a terror of the deep. But how much of this was mere myth, and how much was based in reality? Well, that's for you to decide. We've explored the depths of the ocean and uncovered some truly incredible creatures that might rival the kraken in size and ferocity. We've delved into the murky depths of the Mariana Trench and discovered colossal squid, gigantic isopods, and ghostly white deep-sea sharks. We've even encountered the bizarre anglerfish, a master of disguise with a glowing lure dangling from its head. These creatures are as fascinating as they are frightening, and they serve as a reminder that the ocean's depths are truly a world of their own. But now we want to hear from you. What do you think? Are these creatures more myth than monster, or are they truly lurking in the darkest depths of our oceans? And do you believe in the kraken? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this journey into the heart of nautical nightmares, then be sure to check out our other videos. From terrifying tales of the open seas to chilling encounters with mysterious creatures, we've got something for everyone. Thanks for joining us on this spine-tingling adventure into the realm of legendary sea monsters. If you haven't already, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an update. For those who followed along on our 17th century time travel adventures, you'll know that we've been in the thick of things aboard a bustling East Indiaman. If you haven't, perhaps start here. Our previous episodes will be linked below. Now, for those unfamiliar with the inner workings of a 17th century merchantman, here's a quick refresher. Let's picture this. You're about to step onto a ship packed with spices, silks, and secrets. Imagine the smells pungent spices mingling with salty air and the less savory aroma of stale waste. As you navigate the cramped spaces, watch your head, because towering masts and thick rigging fill the air above you. Life on board is a test of endurance, with the constant rocking of the waves and the ceaseless creaking of the ship testing your equilibrium. To top it all off, the crew of mixed nationalities speaks in a babel of languages. Amidst this vibrant chaos, you're about to meet a cast of characters, each with their own ambitions and secrets. From the grizzled old sailors, to the sharp-eyed officers, and the mysterious passengers. Their fates are intertwined with the cargo they carry, and the captain who guides them. Remember, this isn't just a journey across the seas. This is a voyage into the heart of a world that's both familiar and strange. Fasten your seatbelts. Time travelers, we're about to embark on a journey back to the 17th century. Welcome to the 4th episode of our interactive series, where time travels meet. Before we begin, a word of warning. The further you venture into the past, the more delicate the timeline becomes. Your choices have consequences. Beware of paradoxes. Now, let's jump into our time machine and set our coordinates to the 17th century. Don't forget to make your choices. At each fork in the narrative path, click the corresponding letter to decide our time traveler's fate. Can you keep the timeline intact? Let's find out. As we move upward on the ship, the environment changes subtly. The smell of salt and sweat gives way to the subtler aroma of pipe tobacco and the faint scent of oranges. Light filters through the open hatches above, casting shadows that dance with the gentle sway of the ship. Here in the officers' quarters, a chessboard sits abandoned on a table, its pieces frozen in a silent battle of strategy. A half-read book lies open, its pages whispering tales of distant lands. The clutter is purposeful, hinting at the lives and minds of the men who once inhabited this space. Each scuffed book, each well-worn map tells a story of adventure, exploration, and the relentless pursuit of knowledge and fortune. As we explore this maritime world, we'll encounter individuals whose stories are etched into the very fabric of the ship. Their presence echoes through the creaking timbers, carried on the whispers of the wind. We're here to listen to their stories, to understand their motivations, and unravel the mysteries that bind them to this extraordinary journey. But remember, time travelers, this is not just a journey through time. It's an adventure through a world of intrigue, danger, and discovery. Stay sharp, keep your wits about you, and be ready to make choices that will shape our story. The past is alive, and it needs your guidance. All right, time travelers, welcome to the officers' quarters aboard this mighty Indiaman. Before we dive into the stories that unfold here, take a moment to soak in the atmosphere. Imagine the gentle sway of the ship beneath your feet, and the salty temps of the sea in your nostrils. The polished wood panels whisper tales of long voyages, while the worn maps and navigational instruments hint at the adventures that lie ahead. The simplicity of the furnishings belies the complexity of the lives lived here, where strategy, diplomacy, and courage are as vital as the compass guiding the ship. You find yourself in a small cabin, dominated by a heavy wooden desk. A quill pen rests on a stack of parchment, awaiting your thoughts. Light streams in from the open hatches overhead, illuminating motes, dancing in the air like tiny lost spirits. On the wall, a framed map of uncharted waters hints at the mysteries yet to be discovered. Through the opening behind you, you hear the murmur of voices engaged in lively conversation, perhaps plotting their next move or sharing tales of their adventures. It's here in the quiet confines of the officers' quarters that the true heart of the ship beats. Here amidst the maps, compasses, and ledgers, the decisions that shape the ship's fate are made. But what draws you most to this place? Is it the promise of adventure? The allure of the unknown? Or the whispered stories carried on the wind? Your choice. What intrigues you most about the officers' quarters? A. The map of uncharted waters, sparking your thirst for exploration. B. The stack of parchment and quill pen, beckoning you to put your thoughts to paper. C. The open hatches and dancing light, calling you to bask in the moment's tranquility. D. The murmur of voices beyond the opening, piquing your curiosity about the ongoing conversation. Make your choice by clicking on the corresponding letter. Ow. What calls to you the most? A, B, C, or D soon after? The murmur of voices drifts into your small cabin, carrying with it fragments of a lively discussion. Curiosity piqued, you decide to investigate. As you push aside the heavy curtains, you're met with the sight of several officers engaged in a spirited conversation around a table. Among them, the ship's captain, his face weathered and lined, his eyes sharp and alert. Seated opposite him is a young officer, his expression eager, his posture attentive. Completing the circle is a seasoned navigator, his gaze fixed on the table as if studying an invisible map. The topic of their discussion is veiled, but you catch snippets of important details. The captain, known for his steady hand and unwavering resolve, is considering retirement. The young officer, ambitious and hopeful, wishes to take command. The navigator, stoic and contemplative, observes silently. Suddenly, the captain turns his gaze toward you, his eyes twinkling with a mix of amusement and challenge. "Ah, Karoo," he booms, his voice echoing with authority. "Care to join us? We're discussing the future of this fine vessel, and a keen mind like yours would be a welcome addition." How do you respond to the captain's invitation? A. You politely decline, choosing to respect the privacy of their conversation. B. You accept the invitation, eager to engage in a discussion that could shape your own future on the ship. C. You inquire further, seeking a better understanding of the situation before committing. D. You observe quietly, listening attentively to their conversation without revealing your presence. Make your choice by clicking on the corresponding letter. Why don't you tell me which option you choose? Let's keep going. If you chose A, bowing your head slightly as a gesture of respect, you excuse yourself, returning to your cabin to resume your tasks. Though intrigued by their conversation, you understand the importance of respecting their privacy in such a moment. If you chose B, you step into the circle of officers, eager to contribute your thoughts. As you do, the young officer beams at you, recognizing a potential ally in this discussion. The captain nods his approval, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Good," he says. "Let's hear your thoughts on who should succeed me." If you chose C, you ask a few probing questions, seeking clarity before committing. The officers exchange glances, a mixture of surprise and admiration in their eyes. The captain chuckles, appreciating your thoughtful approach. "It seems we have a wise one among us," he says, his tone laced with warmth. "Fear not, Karoo, we can spare a moment to bring you up to speed." If you chose D, you maintain a discreet silence, allowing the officers to continue their discussion undisturbed. Peeking through a crack in the door, you listen intently, absorbing their words and assessing the dynamics at play. As the discussion continues, the fate of the ship hangs in the balance. Will you guide it toward calmer waters, or navigate it through treacherous seas? Choices are yours, time travelers. How will you influence the outcome? What do you think? Was that exciting? Well, buckle up because we've only just begun our journey. Don't forget to share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Remember, the decisions you've made have shaped our story. Keep an eye out for clues and foreshadowing. They hold the key to unraveling the mysteries that await. Till our next encounter, fair winds and following seas. Keep an eye out for clues and foreshadowing. They hold the key to unraveling the mysteries that await.